Hi, this video is for the new AQA Economics AS level course. We're going to be looking at question 31 for the 2016 Econ 2 paper. Question 31 is on context 2, which is titled, How has immigration affected the performance of the UK economy? The question says, Extract E, lines 1 to 3 states, European migrants who arrived in the UK since 2000 have made a net contribution of more than £20 billion to UK finances. Explain how immigration from the rest of Europe affects the UK government's budget deficit. So to answer this question, I think first we should define what a budget deficit is. We can do this by defining what a budget is, and we can work out the government's budget by doing its taxation revenues minus its government expenditure. If this figure is positive, it means that the government is running a budget surplus. If this figure is negative, it means that the government has a budget deficit. A budget deficit will be where the government is spending more than it is receiving in taxation. That defines what a budget deficit is. The question asks us to explain how immigration from the rest of Europe affects the UK government's budget deficit. We can answer this question down two different avenues. One avenue can be the effects that immigration has on the government's expenditure, and the other avenue is to see what the effect of immigration is on the government's taxation revenues. So the effects that immigration has on the budget deficit depends on the effects that immigration has on both taxation revenues and government expenditure. So let's first look at government expenditure. Most migrants who come to the UK are young but of working age, and this means that they are less likely to use certain services that the government pays for. For example, as they are working age, it means that they won't be in schools. Also, they are likely to be fairly healthy, which means that the government's expenditure on healthcare for them is likely to be low. However, it could be the case that these migrants may have young families, and this makes demand on some public services such as education. In addition, some migrants who come over may claim benefits off the state. However, Extract E says those who arrived in the UK since 2000 were 43% less likely than British people to receive state benefits. Migration will likely not affect the amounts that the government spends on public goods. If we take the example of defence as our public good, we would likely not see any increase in expenditure on defence if the population was to rise. So if we look at all the effects that I've just listed, the government's expenditure will rise if there is migration. So now let's have a look at migration's effects on the government's taxation revenues. A lot of the migrants are going to be young and of working age. This means that they're going to be working and therefore paying income tax. Furthermore, migrants are going to consume goods and services in the UK economy. They are going to result in aggregate demand increasing. Most of the goods and services that they are going to consume will be subject to VAT or excise duties, and this will cause the government's taxation revenues to rise. So migration is going to increase taxation revenues for both direct taxes and indirect taxes. So to bring the answer of this question all together, we see that government expenditure is going to rise and government taxation is also going to rise. If the government's taxation rises by a greater amount than the increase in government expenditure, that would result in the deficit improving. It would result in the deficit being less. If the government expenditure was greater than the amount of taxation that it brought in, it would result in the deficit getting worse. The negative number would be greater. I would then do a little conclusion that brings everything that I have mentioned in the answer together. I would say that from the data and my own economic knowledge, it is likely that the government's budget deficit is going to improve. I would then place a quote in from Extract E. This quote is on line 3. Migrants from the 10 countries that joined the European Union in 2004 contributed almost $5 billion more to taxes in the years between 2004 and 2011 than the value of public services that they consumed. So this brings us to the end of this video. There are videos for the other questions in this past paper on YouTube. Alternatively, you can click the link in the description below, which will take you through to the website.